You'll never guess what our friend Chelsea Manning just tweeted a few days ago. When I say friend, I don't mean that sort of loosely. I'm not really friends with Chelsea Manning. Chelsea Manning is a person who a lot of people admire and have credited with great heroism for being the source for WikiLeaks and for exposing war crimes of Washington in Iraq and elsewhere. Being a great source for WikiLeaks, being jailed and so forth for her acts of that many would call patriotism, others call treason. But here's what Chelsea, formerly known as Bradley Manning, by the way, but then transitioned to Chelsea, is saying, for those of you who are just catching up, if you are able to afford it, and if it is safe for you to do so, you should consider arming yourselves, then finding others to train with in teams and learn how to defend your community. We may need these skills in the very near future. Now, I'm not exactly sure what angle Chelsea is coming from on this. I'm not sure what quote unquote side Chelsea sees him, her, they, self with in America. But reading a lot of Chelsea Manning's followers, a little bit scary because they're making lots of references to the Supreme Court, Roe v. Wade, abortion, things like that. James says, is the implication here that overturning Roe v. Wade would incur civil war? Somebody answers back, Roe goes, then the power of the 14th Amendment goes. 14th goes, then so does several other human rights. Civil unrest follows. Now, civil rest is a good thing, I guess. So this person is saying that if the court overturns Roe v. Wade, which, by the way, is totally unconstitutional, mangling of the Constitution, many legal scholars readily acknowledge that. Even on the left, I've heard some have admitted, yeah, it's a bad law. It sucks. Roe overturns the powers of states to regulate what are clearly state matters. You know, your state polices crime. I mean, the federal government has tried its best to usurp that. They mainly do it through the Medicare laws, pulling the strings of federal funds. But they don't do it through a legal police power because they don't have one over the practice of medicine, over physicians, and so forth. They do it through money, which is a very, very common backdoor the federal government uses to control the states and control individuals even where they have no constitutional power to do so. Well, Roe v. Wade, the federal government has no constitutional police power whatsoever, either for or against abortion. It cannot either, quote, allow or give the right to abortion, nor can it prohibit abortion. It doesn't have the right or power anywhere in the Constitution to say a thing about abortion. That's always been a state matter until 1973, when an overreaching court, tyrants in black robes, decided to grab the power and usurp the power illegally, unconstitutionally, and make themselves sort of like unelected legislators. It was a shoddy legal justification for their preconceived goal. Now back to this agitation propaganda. Tessa says, in particular, there's a lot of concern that this, combined with a propaganda campaign to get people to associate LGBTQ people with child molesters, there's no such campaign, will result in LGBT plus people and other marginalized groups being targeted for state-sanctioned or at least state-ignored violence. And then she says, the fascists, normal Americans, the fash are a lot more likely to leave you alone if they know you're packing. Says a person who clearly supports the fascist regime in power now, or worse. the fascists slash communists love to mirror and project their own ideologies onto their political opponents, conservatives, which is the opposite of fascists, conservatives, libertarians, MAGA people. You know all about that. Of course, you've already seen the violence, the threats against the Supreme Court justices from the far left slash communist, commu-fascists. There's a lot of signs that we're about to kick off a rerun of 2020 in this 2022 run up to the election. Just another rerun of the bad movie from 2 years ago. They always incite some kind of unrest, violence, rioting, crisis, multiple crises in an election season, and 2020 being the worst yet. But they may roll out even worse this summer. You know, I think they feel that they got the revolution, the revolutionary regime. They overthrew finally, and not perhaps finally, but solidly overthrew constitutional government, or an attempt to restore constitutional rule of law in this country in 2020. They overthrew elections. They overthrew election law. They overthrew any tenuous connection between the will of the people and the result of the election. But they feel their grip on power is slipping. It's very tenuous. Their credibility at zero. No one anymore believes that they're legitimate. No one anymore trusts them. No one anymore thinks they know what the fuck they're doing. But the question is, they may be desperate enough to try even worse this summer and fall. Y'all better buckle up, and you'd better, yes, take Chelsea Manning's advice seriously. And I'm talking to the good Americans out there, the real Americans, the Americans that believe in the rule of law and the Constitution and liberty. Y'all better take his advice. The other side is, I guarantee you that, you know, you look at all these Antifa leftist idiots as a bunch of like weak, fragile soy boys and sexual deviants and weirdos. But the call is going out that they need to arm up. They've got gun clubs. They got rifle clubs. They've had those going for a while now, and there's a interconnection between the so-called anti-fascist Antifa and the elements left over from the Weather Underground, the violent communists from the 1960s. I watched one of the Project Veritas exposés of the Antifa slash Weather Underground militia, where training center, where they alluded and hinted at, yeah, we got underground groups too. We don't do like killing people. Above ground groups don't do that. Wink, wink, you know, hinting that, yeah, we got underground groups that take care of that stuff. So y'all better get ready, because as they feel their power might be tenuous and vulnerable, their credibility at zero or below zero, they might feel they have to do some really spectacular and crazy shit in order to hang on. Now, another item, you know, I divide the left into the commu-fascists and the honest left. You know, people who don't want to lie to you. And I consider Matt Taibbi, some people might question him, but a lot of what he puts out is good stuff. I think he's one of the more honest. But he has put out a thing on, he's got an item on Stone Mountain Park's Confederate Memorial remains flashpoint for armed culture war. Now they had a Civil War commemoration, as they always do, I guess every year, at Stone Mountain Park. And then you've got these black militias and these Antifa who decide to go up there and cause trouble, and let's have a fight. And it's all about how these self-proclaimed anti-fascists have to go and get up in the face of these Confederate commemorators, and disrupt, quote unquote, disrupt them and antagonize them. And that's the dumbest idea ever. And I said, here's my comment. The difference between the Confederate commemorators and the, quote, anti-fascists: one, the first group is commemorating the Civil War of 1860 to 65, including their ancestors who perished. The second group is trying to create a civil war in 2022. The first group is not insisting on imposing cultural hegemony on everybody else. The second group is. The first group is expressing pride in their regional and ancestral heritage, which is theirs and will be no matter what. The second group is just there to cause trouble. If they don't like Confederate commemorations, why are they all flocking to one? They have any number of places where they could be and things that they could do. Why do they insist on being with people who stand for something they oppose? Whatever happened to just minding your fucking business? That's what actual anti-fascists would do. Not go and try to cancel the speech of others that they find offensive or religiously crusade, and shame, convert, harass, or harm all whom they deem heretics. I got one good comment there. And I'm not saying anything out of the ordinary. This is what used to be the common knowledge and the conventional zeitgeist of America and of liberals in particular. If you don't like it, they always used to say, turn the channel, don't watch it, don't listen, don't come. And of course now it's the 180 degrees the opposite. If you don't like it, use violence. The other group's not using violence, but these idiots want to come and start some violence. So, again, it's agitation. That's what communists do. And yeah, maybe there's agitators on both sides. I don't know. I see these guys, and Matt Taibbi is providing footage. The leftist is providing footage of these far leftist commie fascists trying to start something with these people that they don't have to be there. They don't even have to live in Stone Mountain. If you think Stone Mountain's too racist and too Confederate, what are you doing there? You have tens of thousands of towns you could live in. So that's my view as the son of parents from the South, from the Jim Crow South. You think that the so-called Klan of today is the Klan of 1955? You're out of your mind. It's a federal operation, pretty much. They were fully federally and infiltrated and run for as far back as 1970. So I have a lot more to say about this issue, the invented, quote, white supremacist threat, the invented racism threat, and how there, of course, the state is using that to impose fascism. Whenever I hear people using this invented crisis of white supremacy, of violent white supremacists, it's bullshit. And I've been saying that since the 90s. It's always the same side and always the same party that tries to use this ginned up, invented threat to political advantage, imposing outright authoritarianism by pointing at the other guy and labeling the other guy the fascist, the racist, the authoritarian. Oldest trick in the book. As there's a sucker born every minute, you better stop buying into it, because you're going to lose everything. Because the alleged saviors from white supremacy and fascism are the white supremacists and the fascists. Okay? This isn't Trump's inauguration. This is not Trump's inauguration. This is Biden's inauguration. Okay? Okay? Check that out. Nuremberg Rally 1933. Biden inauguration 2020. Not Trump's. Someone is sending a message. I don't know if it's Biden himself set that up or his people set that up intentionally, or I don't know if somebody on the inaugural team said, we're going to get a subliminal message out there to the American people. But somebody is sending a message and wanted you to see this. Okay? And I want to credit groundzeromedia.org. That's Clyde Lewis. You should, if you want to keep really informed. This guy's an old timer. Okay, he's older than me. But I'm an OG. I've been around on this for a long time. Clyde's been on it even longer than I have. And I want you to support this guy. He's out there like in the wilderness. He's on the radio airwaves, on AM, but he's also online. But he's not one of the influencers getting lots of love from social media. But you would do really well to pay attention to what he has to say about the insights he has on the deep state, deep politics, maybe even the paranormal. That's who put together that montage, that photo montage. April 29, Tinfoil Hate. That sounds like a good one.
How creepy this is. A month or so ago, you didn't know what colors of the flag were Ukraine's. Now you see it on lapels, side by side with the American flag on a lot of these Congress people. And now we're talking about national sovereignty for a country we didn't know anything about for a month or a month before. We don't even talk about national sovereignty for the United States of America. We don't talk about our borders as much as we're talking about their borders.
No, it's over.
How is this happening?
That's been ended.
We need to look out for us, too. I mean, I haven't a problem with helping out Ukraine. But where's the line drawn?
I do.
Give. And when you can't give some more. We've given a lot. 503-225-0860. It's 503-225-0860. Back with more Ground Zero. Don't go away.
And here's another one. And he does little sort of blogs, too, along with each episode. There appears to have been a Walpurgis satanic holiday, April 29th, or that April 30, May 1st, sacrifice in Ukraine with the dead bodies of Russian soldiers arranged in a Z shape and placed within a circle, along with the black magic symbols or sigils spray painted on buildings. It's quite chilling how these blood rituals during wartime can be hidden until they are said to be war crimes, and the propaganda will not address it or write it off as satanic panic. We've entered a dark time, perhaps the end time, when the world's demise is a very real possibility. And that's World Stop Turning, Ashes Where Their Bodies Burning. It's also on SoundCloud and on here on groundzeromedia.org. That's it. I want to keep this kind of short, 25 minutes. Thanks for coming. Thanks for hanging out. And remember, tell me what you think below. Subscribe if you haven't already. Like this. Share this if you think it's worth sharing. And also, you can put this into one of your favorite playlists, too. All right, there you go. Peace, love, and blessings.